Hello and welcome to the Offside Trap. We are finally back after a long year of sitting around regretting not doing the podcast.
we've
I've
had,
decided to
we-
throw myself back in.
we've had our own COVID
Yeah,
time.
we had a hiatus. Yeah,
Down
friggin'.
music's gone down big time, hasn't it?
Do you
Jesus.
know what? That's an old stock music on this that I decided in the moment just to use. That wasn't like the last one. The last one we had was great.
I thought we were in
But
'80s then.
yeah, we're back nonetheless, boys. Look, it is what it is. We'll get better as we're going on. But yeah, no, look, it's really, really good to be back. And we're starting, obviously, we're recording this now on the Thursday, are we? Thursday the 10th. So the league obviously starts tomorrow
Thursday, yeah,
night.
yeah.
This will be released on Tuesday after the first round of fixtures have already been played. And yeah, and we're going to just talk about who we think is the best Premier League team of all time. Not a fantasy team, not made up of individual players, real teams that played as in the Invincible teams, Klopp's Liverpool, etc. But before we get started, boys, obviously Leeds are gone back down to the Championship. Rob, Marcus, you was
That's
almost
an
got
early.
into the
That's an early
Championship.
stab. That
Well,
it's an
look, it's
early
been a
stab there.
year because the last time we were on this podcast, Leeds were our Premier League team. But boys, you have both had unusual starts to the season. Bolton are doing unusually well, and Leeds are doing unusually bad in the Championship. But in fairness, Rob, I think he's got a win in the League Cup, was it? First round the other night.
Yeah,
So,
that win last night, 2-1 against Shrewsbury. But as a lot of changes going on at Leeds and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So it's a rebuild job, as you know.
yeah,
And,
100%.
it'll be a tough season. I still think we'll go close to getting promoted again if we have a good manager there and if we get the right players in. As I said earlier on the texting, the players he's gone for is a good sign, and the players, it's one or two that we've got seem to be good acquisitions. So, the likes of Ampadu and your man Rowden is probably Premier
He's a
League's
good signing.
now.
Yeah, he's a good signing.
still got some talent there. That
Yeah,
Sinister and Somerville. Like,
exactly. If we can
Nanto,
hold on to them, I think Nanto is kind of
down to Everton, isn't he now? They're looking
he's
likely.
kind of marked his cards. So, like, looking at the forms now, fans ain't impressed at all. Refusing to play for any team is, well, regardless of your reason,
But
it just isn't good.
yeah,
Uh,
but
yeah,
look, I mean, I do fancy Leeds to a playoffs minimum, I think. It just depends on how the season goes with injuries and stuff like that, isn't it, Rob? You just push on into the top two, but
We've 9 out
Bolton,
at the moment, so that's detrimental to any
yeah,
team.
huge.
I
And
mean,
Cooper, I know he wasn't great in the Premier League. He's probably Championship level, but he's at getting a bad
yeah,
injury now as well, isn't he? If he was out for a
yeah,
few
and he got
weeks.
back into the game, and then he got injured. So it's, one of them, a catch-22. But yeah, he's out for, I think it's 8 weeks. Cooper's out for, yeah. So
It's a killer.
that's why
Well,
Rowden has come in, I think, so quickly. So
yeah,
yeah,
100%. And moving on to obviously Bolton then as well, Marcus. You've had a good start to the season. The
yeah.
first two
It's just
games, our first game, is it?
yeah, been building slowly, and ever since he's got in charge.
Yeah,
Got us up in that first season, consolidated in second season, kind of kept the same core group of players, and then built and added quality to that. We had a day at Wembley last year. Obviously, we hammered the eventual winners at League 4-0 in Pizza Cup, as they call it. But we were
it was
top
amazing game that was.
day out for us fans who's not had anything like obviously a while. And then we started the season 3-0 last week against Lincoln, and then we won, same as Robbo's Leeds in League Cup the other night, 1-0 against Barrow. But I'm quietly optimistic this season. Last season that I believe the strength of teams were a lot stronger than it is this year, so I do pip us to be one of the favourites. Or if I don't like saying it, obviously because you jinx it, just like Rob said, but I'll just put us there or thereabouts,
Yeah,
promotion places.
yeah. And look, I think he's about probably a good bet. In fairness, to go up really.
Rob stuck some money on us.
Oh well, then you're fucked. Yeah, definitely not going up now. But no, I think, yeah, I think I'd love to see Leeds back to our traditionally huge club, like, do you know what I mean? And Bolton, then when we would have started watching football and loving football and growing up, Bolton were a great team and as we done the podcast before, the three of us, it was reminiscing on
Yeah.
how good Bolton were. But now, look, best of luck for the season, boys. And the last podcast we did, Ronaldo had just done his interview at United, so
Oh,
we've had, let's do a bit of a fast forward. United are in a much better place
I was just going to
now.
say, right, what are you
Um,
saying now for United?
yeah, than we were, and Ten Hag's a ball genius, and he seems to have done good business. But I would have liked him to bank on. Oh my God, that's a disgrace. Who was that?
He's
Kane,
getting at that.
brilliant. As I was saying, I would have loved United to go for Kane
It
instead
looks
of
like Bayern have picked it, doesn't
Hoyland.
it?
But look at us saying to the lads earlier on, looking at the outlay that Bayern are going to have to spend on wages over the next 5 years and the transfer fee, it's 250, 260 million. And Hoyland, with his 5 year contract, it's only on 80 grand a week. It's only 160 million or something over 5 years. So, and in 5 years' time, Kane will be finished. Hoyland could be world class. So they've taken a bit of a risk, but I hope it pays off. And I just fear the news tonight now. If Liverpool get Caicedo, I think they'll be much stronger
Yeah,
this season.
definitely.
I don't really think Aman Lavia is as good as people are making out. I think Caicedo's a much better bet,
Yeah,
much better signing.
proven definitely as
Yeah.
well.
So I just think if I think United should be happy with top four and try to get another trophy, and if they get a good run in the Champions League, I think that's another good season.
Kane
But
will be a big miss for Prem. That's the only thing I'm gutted about.
yeah, Alan Shearer is probably the only happy person
100%.
that Harry Kane is leaving the Premier League, because his record, that's it. Like,
He's not going though, top, is he? Did he not say?
they reckon it's probably just dragging his heels a little bit. Maybe with Munich, he hasn't got what he's wanted. You know, that way, and bit of
I'll
tactics.
tell you
But I
what, if
think
he
he
does
will
stay
go.
though, that's some commitment to a club that he's same as
Oh,
Shearer,
he's
similar
getting a
in it with
fucking
Newcastle.
statue,
Do you
isn't
know
he?
what I mean?
There's no real. If you sign for Bayern Munich, there's no real challenge. Like what?
No, this is why I
Even,
think I don't know. We'll have to see. There's
I
a lot,
think
a
you
lot
need
can
more
happen in the next 24 hours.
but I think even looking at Munich's squad and looking across Europe, though, I think they're miles off winning the Champions League, though, even with Harry Kane.
100%.
So I
Yeah.
don't see the attract. It's not as if he's going in and he's like the final piece of a puzzle. They're still
No.
miles off it. Now, look, we've been proven wrong before with teams in Europe. You get a handy run in knockouts and stuff, and you might find yourself in a semi-final, and you've only 3 matches to win it then. So anything can happen. But I think it's shaping up to be a good season.
Yeah.
Likely Man City are going to win it again, unless they have a, they kind of implode themselves. I don't think Arsenal. I think Arsenal will be good again this season. I
Yeah.
actually tipped them to win it, but looking at them in pre-season, and I know it's only pre-season, but looking at Havertz and stuff, I just don't think they've really settled on where he needs to play. So I'm still a little bit 50-50. I'm not too sure. And then the news of Kyle Walker staying, and stuff. I think City could be all right.
Guavidol.
Yeah, Guardiola coming in as well. It's just gluttony at this stage of City, isn't it? Like, they just take who they want.
Yeah.
I actually don't think they will win it though. I think it's very hard for them to keep up that level again, especially with the others closing the gap, and just on the treble as well.
And no one's ever done 4 leagues in a row in English football. So it's United have done 3 times twice. And
again, maybe, but the league could be a bit of a stretch for them again. As I said, no one's ever done 4 in a row. And
Chelsea won't win it, but I can't wait to see Pochettino. See what he can do with this.
To be honest with you, I think United will be there or thereabouts again in top 4. Liverpool will be stronger. Chelsea will be stronger. I think Newcastle are going to drop away big time. I think the squad is not. They haven't got enough depth to be spread across Champions League and everything. I think they'll drop out. So I think your top 4 could be, City, Arsenal, Liverpool, United.
Yeah,
maybe
I won't disagree too much with that.
And then depending on whether Chelsea can gel pretty quick, they'll be right up there pushing United and Liverpool out as well. So it's going to be a good season, boys. But look, let's talk about the best seasons that some teams have had in England, and we'll start in chronological order, and really no better place to start than the original treble, the real treble, the one where we didn't cheat and we didn't fucking pay off.
Any bitterness there, Robbie, or what?
No, we'll just get that in at the very, very start. We did spend a fortune to get some of the players in that we had. We also had 6 homegrown players that we nurtured ourselves, and sit here just fake sponsorship companies pumping money in, and the truth will come out eventually. But look, let's focus on
that's
exactly. There's a couple of things that I wanted to focus on, and we'll have a general conversation about the treble. But just on the screen, I think not enough is said about Manchester United's route to winning that European Cup.
Yeah, some big teams are.
When you look at it, the group they actually drew was Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and Brøndby. They were unbeaten in the group, albeit they'd 4 draws in it, which is actually mad. They drew against Barcelona 3-3 in both games and drew against Bayern Munich twice. But the knockout rounds, I think, are where they separate. If you look at Bayern Munich, they played Kaiserslautern and Dynamo Kiev in their
Yeah,
two knockout games. United had Inter Milan and Juventus, which, as we know, in the 90s, Italian football was outstanding and it was the place to be. So I just think, even Roy Keane's goal against Juventus and Andy Cole and Dwight York, the goals in Inter Milan and stuff, is just there's a romantic side to it for me, obviously being a United fan. But in general, I think that run is sensational. To be honest with you,
that's when you win it properly. When you beat the best to be the best. You know what I
They
mean?
didn't lose a game, didn't they? Not either, and
no,
No.
and they were the top goal scorers in the competition as well.
that Kiev team, though, to be fair, was
Oh, Rebrov and
They
Shevchenko.
were excellent. Even
Oh,
if you look, they got a 3-3 draw in Munich. You know what I mean? So, now, in fairness to them, on paper, when you look at it now, obviously they look like Jesus. They'd never even get to a Champions League. Those two teams. You know what I mean? But you're right though. Yeah, but we can also say the same for that Barcelona team, that they weren't.
Rivaldo.
They were quite good, but they were kind of coming to the end. Were they? Correct me if I'm wrong. They weren't as
Yeah,
good as they were, say, in the mid 90s or early 90s.
yeah. Again, like Robbie was saying
They
before,
were a
we
bit
come
all
on
over
there.
the place, weren't they? Like
Yeah, cycle
very
will coming to an end.
players like that, still like world class players.
Yeah.
But
So
that '99 United team was unbelievable. Like, to be fair, the
yeah.
it's the forced travel. It's the league. Arsenal at that time as well had won the league the year previous. That way, and
They'd
Wenger
won they'd won the double. They'd won the
Yeah,
double
they
the year
did. Yeah,
before. So and
to
that's
do either.
exactly, and obviously we done the podcast on Arsene Wenger before, and we talked about how much he revolutionised English football, and for United to roar back in the way they did, that season, it was amazing. We won't get away from the fact that diehard fans will say United still spent a fortune. They broke transfer records every season, which they did, but there'll never be another team that'll have 5 or 6 homegrown players like that, and not filling their bench either. You know what I mean? These were some of the best players that they had in the team. The Beckham, Scholes, Giggses, the
oh,
Nevilles.
England
But
internationals, isn't it? Yeah.
so like I think Beckham was fairly close in the Ballon d'Or that year as well, if I'm not wrong, in '99 as well. He was
He
within the
got
top
second.
five or something, or second. Yeah, he was really
So,
close to it. So
I think it's
um,
important to know, as we were saying before, Tom, and you'll probably touch on it yourself, that this was kind of a cycle. So it kind of started in 95, 96. And you'll see with the other teams as well, City even, there's a build up there of league
yeah,
titles, league cups, FA cups, and then kind of 99 culminates in the holy grail of them doing the three. Like,
yeah,
what that particular team had, say the nucleus of the players, like 6 or 7 in that squad, in that first 11, were there since 95, 96, have continued on. So they've won. It's not just, 98,
of
99, or
course.
what the team is, what it's kind of called, that way. That's what they'll be remembered as. They kind of there's a
they were,
cycle there that
Yeah,
they were
they
definitely
were
one of the
building
greatest
momentum, weren't they? That's what it were.
premiership has ever
yeah.
seen.
Like
That way.
as you say, Cantona retires in '97, so Ferguson has to go and replace him with essentially two players. He's looking for. I think he signs the White York actually the year
Yeah,
after treble, and I think he signed
Yeah,
Solskjaer then pretty
yeah,
much a couple of years before it. But he also, which is it's a sensational thing about it, we had two players for every position essentially. Like the
yeah,
four strikers, Cole, York, Solskjaer, Sheringham. Like, as you say, that didn't happen overnight. Scholes and Keane in midfield didn't happen overnight. They were there 5 and 6 years. Roy
yeah.
Keane was anyway at that stage. So
Nicky
yeah,
Butt
it's
played a
Nicky
lot.
Boy. Yeah, amazing. And then you did have your squad players. Naturally, you have Jesper Blomqvist, your Phil Neville's, your Ronnie Johnson's. You know what I mean? So it's a brilliant team, and obviously I don't think it's the best team, which probably a lot of people would say no, but I don't. One of the factors why I was only 4 or 5 years of age, so I couldn't really appreciate it week in week out how good they were. Obviously I remember watching the final as a child. I remember my dad on his knees spitting on the television when Bayern Munich players came on in the And next ball, I cut to Andy Cole, and he fucking wiped the spit off the television. I was just mad, And I remember the excitement around it. But I think one thing that's always going to be held against them, and Jamie Carragher touched on it a few years ago, which is the second thing down the bottom here, is that the 79 points is a very low tally to win the league. Which, look, lads, what your take on it might be that, well, the league was tougher, or maybe the teams now are just freaks of nature that they're getting these points totals. What do you take away from that?
Go on, Rob.
Marcus,
You shoot first.
Like, I noticed them the same with when we touch on Arsenal with the Invincibles. Draws seem to be a major factor when it got to that level, and it was like not getting beaten maybe was more than nicking the points. Does that make later when we go to Liverpool and City is that that it definitely did go up a level if you look at the points. Do you know that way? Did the standard rise? That's a matter of opinion.
The defeat, there's only 3 defeats, which is very good, like we said, and you will see as we go along. But you're right, the draws, even if you look down the top 4, like 12 draws was the lowest amount of draws in the top 4, which is, if you drew 12 games now, you'd be lucky to finish in the top 6. You know what I mean? Like Leeds, they're 13 draws, Chelsea 15 draws, which is just mental.
What I would say is the gap isn't as big. So whether the teams that you think aren't as strong, were they actually stronger? Like your Chelseas and your Leeds. That's a top 4 there to me. I know United finished on 79 and Leeds finished on 67. What's that, 13 points though?
12 points, yeah.
Like 12 in the difference. Do you know what I mean? That's not a lot when you look at where 4th nowadays are finishing 30.
30 points, yeah. United finished 33 points behind City one year.
So there's arguments to be made both ways. Obviously, technology and all, football has come on inevitably, like everything else in the world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do they barely even? Then there was still probably a culture. Roy Keane touches on it, doesn't he? On the overlap. You'd still go out and have a drink and all after a game. That's very unheard of now in this day and age, unless you're Jack Grealish. Do you know what I mean? So look.
So what do you think, Marcus, in terms of the draw element, the points element? Like, is it an argument against this team?
No, I won't say so much. It's if anything, that era for me, especially around that time, they were the times like when you were playing like Southampton at the Dell and like going to Goodison Park, and they were just like Wimbledon might have still just have been about knocking around there, going to Selhurst Park and stuff, and there were just games like that what teams didn't like.
And the draw was probably a good result.
Yeah,
you weren't if you were 1-0 with 10 minutes to go, you weren't looking to get the winner. You were taking a point.
It's as well. Good point, Marcus. Do you know what I mean? Like there was
especially the Selhurst Park. They were dumps, weren't they?
Like advantages. Do you know what I mean? Like that mad stuff, making the pitch shorter if you were
100%.
That doesn't go on anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Obviously, we missed the factor of you could put a tackle in them days.
Yeah,
so it's like you've got Andy Cole and York and they're playing, and you've still got Tony Adams and Steve Bull kicking shit out of them. Like, you know what I mean? And nobody batting an eyelid.
Yeah, no, I think they are good points, and I didn't want to just put up, obviously being a United fan, all of the positives and stuff. You do have to dissect it a little bit more and say, well, look, one thing we haven't touched on is like even the FA Cup semi-final. Villa Park down to 10 men. Schmeichel saves the penalty against Bergkamp, and Giggs goes on the run and scores. And there's elements to it that are just there's genius. But then on the other side of it, Bayern Munich absolutely destroys United in the game, and on another night it could have been 4 or 5-0. That way. But again, romantic.
They were going for a treble as well, another amazing team.
Exactly.
Rob touches on it there though, like the amount of late goals as well that year. I remember it vividly because they were just renowned for it, weren't they? They always knew.
The FA Cup in the FA Cup against Liverpool, Old Trafford 1-0 down. Solskjaer scored 2 last 5 minutes. They done it constantly.
Climbing off the bench as well, like it wasn't as if he was playing in the game. Like,
the baby-faced assassin.
But as I said, it was probably in a combination of a lot of hard work down the years and
100%, and Ferguson peaking as a coach as well. After that, I think the teams looked after him, to be honest with you. But up to that
Yeah.
point, he was the driving force.
He got the winning mentality into that team.
100%. And as you say, the Roy Keanes had been there when the Bruces and the Robsons were there and the Inces were there, the winners, and that came true and shown. But a couple of years later, people will argue that this is an even better achievement. You know, this team, we all know this team. You can nearly reel them off, the 11 or the 12, 13
Yeah.
players that played.
Frightening.
They're absolutely sensational, totally different than the treble team. These were an extremely technical, extremely fit, powerful team, a very European team. As opposed to the treble team being a very English style,
Yeah.
wingers strong. Um, I know Gav probably would have loved him to be on this podcast to us, Robbie, to talk about the Invincibles, but
Yeah.
Marcus, obviously this era, this would have been around when I really was like, I was
Yeah.
hooked at this stage. I was only about 9 or 10, but I was hooked. But
Oh,
how good were the Invincibles?
yeah, obviously, I was just looking at the table there. Cheltenham and Bolton, 7th and 8th. It's mad, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, I actually put it down to 8 just for you. I was gonna cut it off at the top 4, and I says we better get Bolton in somewhere.
No, that was bad. You shouldn't have went to him. He's
Yeah.
in there looking at Bolton and 8.
Well, to be honest, well, Robbie, I was gonna go all the way down to fucking relegation just to catch Leeds
Just
in
to
it
get
that
them
year.
in
But
as
I
well.
said no, it's all right, mate, leave it. Yeah.
No, come on. So obviously, me and Rob, well into football ages here. Obviously, Tomo's coming into it, loving it like we do around that age. Season ticket holder here, so I was fortunate enough to watch them as well. Where we were, I hold these up there. Like obviously, like you say, this European style team, but this were a team that he were building when it. Obviously, he took over in 97, 96, 97,
Yeah.
around that era. And Ian Wright talks about it. Obviously, the way that he changed all the diet, all the training sessions, and then he slowly started integrating. Obviously, a lot of French stars coming. Petit turned up, Vieira, early doors, and then obviously the likes of like Robert Perez. He got Campbell for a free, which were a steal. Obviously, caused a lot of controversy, but obviously he was one of the best centre backs in England at the time. And he never took away like the George Graham mentality as well, where the back four was solid, and he always had a solid foundation. So he knew if that back four was solid, his midfield four and his two, or whoever he's got going forward, he could just express themselves. And that season, like you said, the fitness you had. I don't think we'd ever seen anybody like Henry at that point in Premier League.
Yeah.
He was a bit of a slow burner when he first came over, but this is kind of like where he came into.
He started to peak
Yeah,
here, I think, didn't he, across his career?
And he
for
was
the next 3
he
or
was
4
frightening
years.
for watch. Like he could win your games, just like single-handedly win your games.
And even if we look at the draws here, lads, take Newcastle out of it, the most in the top 10 here is 12.
Yeah,
Where when we look there at the last one, the top 4 all had at least
all
12
around
to
14,
15. So you
15,
can
yeah.
see even the standard of the league, essentially, it could be going up, could be going down, or you just have a couple of really dominant teams there. But Robbie,
They're
this
great to watch though. They're exciting. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Some achievement as well, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
Like
like
this, and these were a cycle as well. They kind of they won it like not the year
2002,
before,
they
the
won
year
it,
before.
yeah.
So they were kind of, and this was their peak again. I think when we did the Wenger thing, he actually says that he was convinced they were going to do it the 2 seasons before. And then he was actually convinced the year they didn't win it that they would definitely do it. And then he obviously did it. So he could see it on the training ground every day that they were obviously close to something special, and he had a special team there. Again, I think it was only 12 or 13 players that he would have. He obviously used more than that, but it was 12 or 13.
There was a core,
Similar, of course it were, yeah. And you're talking these are 2 good sides here. This Chelsea and United team.
Yeah, well,
and
Chelsea
look how far behind.
Chelsea knocked them out of the Champions League that year in the quarterfinals, if you remember. And this is the Abramovich time now.
This was Ranieri's last season. Yeah, they pipped the last day of the season, and the last couple of days they went second as well. So
United were a bit in transition, I think, and the likes of Quinn.
This was the end.
Centre mid, they weren't great.
Yeah,
and they had actually won the league unbelievably the year before with that Arsenal team, and Arsenal came second, which was mad. Some achievement by Ferguson again, but
Beckham went to
Beckham.
Real Madrid that
Yeah, he
summer.
did. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
with this Arsenal team, yeah, like for someone to win the league in between that little spell is mad. Because this was a special. So, and obviously, no one has done it like in the history of the Premier League.
Look at the goal difference as well.
Like you
Yeah.
think of the standard and the money that's being pumped into the league for no one, especially like
I have
City.
gone unbeaten. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think it'll ever be done again, will it? Like a couple of teams have come close.
I
which we'll
mean,
keep
we'll
on now.
see later on. Yeah, that a couple have been really, really good. But
Yeah,
you know, one thing I think that right, fair enough. It's an invincible season. Okay, only Arsenal and Preston North End have done it in the very first football league season, which we can't even really count because it's
No.
nothing like
Forest
now,
did it as
right?
well, I think. Forest did it as well in
Did I? Fair enough. Yeah, I
70s
only
or
know of
80s.
the
Yeah.
hey,
two.
you know the podcast, Marks.
But
We don't know.
one thing that we have to, you know, if we're gonna look at the cons, is that it was only the league they won.
Bolton and Leeds were in the league.
Yeah, that's Standard and Charlton as well.
Really 12 points.
They were toughest games at season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they didn't win anything else. They didn't follow it up with an FA Cup, a League
Yeah.
Cup, or a European Cup, and it is something that I do hold against this invincible team because
Yeah.
they were that good. People talk about the 12 draws, right? Because they're taking it in the context of now, whereas we've just seen 12 draws was pretty average for a team that was
Would you
winning the
not
leagues
think?
then.
Would you not think? Obviously, Robbie said they got to quarters at Champions League. No, I'm not too easy on the FA Cup and the League Cup runs, but
They
it
didn't get to the
surely
final
must have
either.
started getting to a certain point in that season, that year, where they just thought,
Got
"Fuck it,
focus on-
we can break a record here, like we can be invincible."
Yeah, they were beaten in the semi-finals in the FA Cup and the League Cup.
See,
But,
so they were there or thereabouts.
Or I
And I
think though another thing that was thrown at them, sorry Robbie, was that when they got into the latter part of the season, a lot of people did say they played for draws, didn't they?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
they went quite defensive because the league was wrapped up like they're 11 points clear of Chelsea. At one stage, well, they finished there, but they were even much further clear, I believe, at one stage.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a good point to make though, because I think they did get a little bit obsessed when you get to what
5 games to go. Yeah,
and you're like, well, the league is won, but we could go and beat. I do think the League Cup and the FA Cup for them, they'd won a couple of FA Cups anyway. I would say they did a double in that year. They won the league in 02. Did they all
they
won
did.
02?
Yeah, no, they did.
And
Yeah,
they, like, I would say, League Cup is the League Cup, not to kind of disparage it, but everyone.
That's United's cup now, isn't it?
And I think it did. I do think they did concentrate on that a little bit more, even to the detriment of the Champions League. They should have got further in the Champions League. I know Chelsea knocked them out and they had money, but Chelsea got beaten by Monaco then in the semi-final. It was a great year for them.
Yeah, Monaco and Porto. Yeah.
Well, I had a look at the stats there, Robbie. As you say, right, the last 9 games in the Premier League season, they drew 5 of them, Arsenal.
Wow.
Okay, and the games they drew, in fairness, right, one was at home to United, one was away to Newcastle, which we see Newcastle there were 5th.
Yeah.
One was away to Spurs, which is always it's their rivalry,
Yeah.
and then at home to Birmingham and away to Portsmouth. But they were like the third and fourth last game of the season. The league was already won, so I think we can cut them a little bit of slack there. That there's at least 3 or 4 of them games there that are
What were
very very
tough.
tough games.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? And you take a draw, especially away to Newcastle and Spurs. In that period, are they the greatest team ever though in the Premier League?
Personally, for me, no.
And nor for me.
I owed them. I like we had a bit of a chat before on the there or thereabouts for me.
And look, at the end, we're gonna have to stick our chickens' necks out and say, look, this is it. Who we think is the greatest team. But we're gonna park the Invincibles there for the moment, and we'll move on to literally the very next dynasty in the Premier League, which I've only put up the 2 season stats here, but really went on for 2007 as well. So Jose obviously comes in at the end of that 2004 season. Similar to United winning the treble, he has an unbelievable task in that he's to follow an unbelievable Arsenal team. That's just went invincible. They're outstanding, but he almost does it themselves in the 2005 season. They were only beaten once in that season. 95 points at the time was unheard of, and then coupled with that, only conceding 15 goals over a 38 game season is just, it's incredible.
Still
And
the record.
yeah, 15 goals. No one has conceded less in the Premier League era.
I can't see
Um,
that being beaten.
And they only conceded something like 9 away goals or something. That's a record as well, or something like that in that season. So it's the stats
well, yeah, well believe it. You
are.
know, they also won the League Cup that year. You know, in 2005, and we, you can't underestimate as well. We understood, right? Chelsea, they were bought the year before. They did finish second, but they were still miles off Arsenal. And then Mourinho comes in. They do spend an absolute fortune. It's the start
Yeah.
of that period, which now is normal. Um, but obviously, to only lose one game, to only concede 15 goals. Chelsea hadn't won the league for 50 years at the time, and to win a League Cup, it's an unbelievable debut season
I
for
think
Mourinho.
for them, there was just something about that team that was
Yeah.
devastating. They
Yeah.
were they were big, strong. Like we talked on about Arsenal Invincibles. These kind of took it to another level.
The level, yeah, they
They
did.
were
Yeah.
they were just 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, Duff and
They were
Robin.
total
Yeah.
football in a sense that they were big, strong, fit, scored loads of goals from everywhere. They were so compact, so hard to beat. Like there wasn't a weakness in them. I can't
No.
believe that they didn't win the Champions League in them couple of seasons as well. Beaten in
Yeah.
semi-finals.
They were beaten in the semi-final this year.
Liverpool.
Liverpool was to beat them in this year's
Yeah, with the
2005.
goal goal. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but whenever and just like again, that was a mad season for Liverpool in the Champions League. They were way off. I can't even see them in the.
It was, yeah. Liverpool beat them 1-0 in
Yeah,
the semi-final. And
Yeah.
was that the ghost goal? Was it? Was
Yeah,
that the Luis
Garcia.
Garcia?
yeah.
So there you go. Really,
Well, you
like
know the spine of that Chelsea team: Czech,
Gallas.
just
Lampard.
Terry.
just looking at it here: Czech, Glenn Johnson, Claude Makelele, Carvalho, Lampard, Joe Cole, Damien Duff, Gallas, Didier Drogba, Arjen Robben, Wayne Bridge, Paulo Ferreira, Good Johnson, John Terry, Hoot, Thiago. Like I could keep
I'll
going. There's
tell you
even more
what.
players there: Carlo Cudicini, Smerton, Kesman, Jeremy. Like they could keep going. They had an unbelievable squad, and I think that was the key, though, wasn't it, for that Chelsea team? They had bought so many quality players they could keep rotating the whole season, but the core, like that front three, even as Irish fans,
Yeah.
myself
Robin,
and
Duff,
Robbie,
and Drogba.
Robin, Duff, and Drogba, we always think was devastating. They were absolutely sensational. Those three.
Robin that season. His first season,
Entirely.
he was a
It was,
joke.
yeah,
Oh yeah, he was a joke.
and he
Even
had hair.
even like just to think that it's like the amount of goals they even scored as well. Looking at that, 72, like in the league, but there was like all over. They just like Drogba, I think was top scorer. Was he at once in the
I
league?
think the second season, the first season, he was a bit of a slow burner, wasn't he, in Prem?
Yeah, he scored 16 goals
Good
for the
Johnson was
season.
still.
He only got 10 in the league. The
Yeah,
top
Good
goal
Johnson.
scorer that season, no prizes for who guesses it, but
Lampard.
is Frank Lampard, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just looking at the results. Can you guess who was the only team to beat them in the league that season?
Spurs, was it, or something
I
like
tell
that?
you what, we had a 2-1 victory against them along that way somewhere at
Well, it was. It
Stamford Bridge.
wasn't. It wasn't that fucking season anyway.
Even
It
more
was actually. It was actually Man City. Shit, Man City beat them in Main Road.
Sean Gold.
Anelka.
1-0. Yeah, I don't know who the goal scorer was, but we let someone comment on that, see who scored the goal at City. But yeah, I mean, they actually, funnily enough, I didn't realise this till now, but they actually drew Porto in that Champions League group as well, Mourinho's old team, and went through with them. But moving on then to 2006 season, and just a small note on United here. United here were massively in transition. We were really, really poor. This was what United fans kind of call the Van Nistelrooy era, when
Yeah.
we won the league in 2003, and then we really petered off. We had signed Ronaldo and Rooney at this stage, but they weren't ready to really go on and lead us to glory. But the 2006 season, then like 91 points again for Chelsea, which this was unheard of, really, to be getting 95 points, 91 points, only conceding 22 goals again the season after. Yes, they lost 5 games, but they still won the league by 8 points, and
Yeah.
it's hard to put into perspective a manager coming in and doing that Yes, they spent a lot of money, but they still went in and absolutely
What did they
dominated
do
the
in the
league.
cups, Tom, that year? But I know
They just won the Premier
last
League,
weekend they were knocked out of the Champions League as
Champions
well.
League.
With
Yeah, they got to
Arsenal,
this.
sorry.
They won the Charity Shield and they were beaten in the semi final of the FA Cup, and that was it. They just won the league again. Dominated it though. Like again, I think they were way clear in the end.
Yeah,
2006, and even this is the year then when you had the drug was really took off. And banging goals in left, right, and centre. Actually, was this the year when Bolton turned them over? Let me check for you now, Marcus.
no, well, even
No,
unbeaten at home
no, it
4
wasn't.
seasons in a row. That's
4 seasons in a row, unbeaten. Yeah, and Drogba. Let me see. Drogba this season scored again only 14 goals. Live.
after that, then when he started ripping it up.
Yeah, but again, they were just across the park. They had so many quality players, and this is also the time when they started snapping up the young players across the world. When they
yeah,
started looking at the John Obi McHale's, Sidwell, Scott Parker, all the young English players that looked like they were going to be the next big
yeah.
thing, the next great thing, and they were building for the future. But
So
amazing.
I think just before we move on, it's relevant as well. The trophies, like these teams have won a lot of trophies. But I do think not winning the Champions League has to come into our trade.
Massive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I put the trophies up there as well at the
Yeah,
top of the screen because people need to know, as you say, Rob. If you have to be regarded as one of the best teams England's ever produced, you have to be winning Champions Leagues, don't you?
I
yeah,
agree. Yeah.
for me anyway. Yeah,
Definitely. But they did come close, and then we haven't got the stats up on the screen of the 2007 season, but United obviously came back and won the league that year. But their season in general was outstanding. They finished second to United, and I think United only won the league by a point or so. I can check that in a second. They won the FA Cup, they won the League Cup, and they were in the semi-finals of the Champions League. So that was as close as they've come to really putting it all together. And then coupled with the fact that, as you said, Rob, there a few minutes ago, unbeaten at home for those 3 seasons, plus then half of the following season, and then Mourinho was sacked. So the unbeaten at home, like an absolute fortress, Stamford Bridge was.
yeah. I think sure Mourinho has some mad stat about being beaten at home as a manager, unbeaten at home as a manager, like 10 seasons.
9 years or something, yeah,
Yeah,
when he at different clubs, yeah, it's he's incredible, and he doesn't get enough credit. And I know a lot of people throw at him the whole, oh, he's a defensive manager, he's this and he's that.
and
Winning is the name of the game, isn't it?
Of
Like,
course it is.
If Wenger came in and kind of changed the landscape, these again took it on. I think these completely changed it. Like no one had seen 4-3-3 before.
yeah,
That's it. They're just a new breed of manager, and just
So
to put that
again,
squad
that comes
together.
into it as well. That's a bit of legacy there. You know what I mean? Like if you're transforming the kind of how the culture of the whole league plays, that's they have to deal with you. And again, as we're going to see, Tom, Mr. Ferguson adapts to that
yeah,
unbelievably.
exactly, and it's a great lead in from you there, Robbie. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Moving on to, and I'm going to stick my neck out. I think this is the best team England's ever produced. Premier League team anyway. I just think there's a reason why I've put the 11 up there, because I think people do forget to a certain degree, and this was only in the 2009 season. This team, it was an outstanding team. You know, basically four strikers, a 4-2-4 they played, and they all interchanged. Um, and then a solid back line, solid goalkeeper. I am biased, obviously. I follow United, but this the stats show and what they achieved in those 2 to 3 seasons is just insane. And like we say, in the 2007 season, they were still fighting off Mourinho's amazing Chelsea team, who were unbelievable, unbeaten at home. But United won the league in 2007. Were beaten in the FA Cup final, I believe, by Chelsea as well. This is when Ronaldo really started to become one of the best players in the world.
Mhm.
Rooney, we signed Everett and Vidic in the January of the season previous. So this was our first full season in 2007, and it all just came together for Ferguson for, you could argue, the third time in his career. I think the first team he had was like the
Yeah.
double team 94, 96 with Cantona, then the treble team. This is his final brilliant team. I won't do all the talking on. be happy to hear you lads talk how brilliant Manchester United were in this period as well. But yeah, I mean, it speaks for itself really for me.
Go on,
Yeah,
Rob, because
this was a great team. Again, I think
Yeah.
there's when you look at it overall, I think these won 5 out of 6 leagues as well. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if it was Chelsea stopped them at one stage or in
It was
between that.
in between, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
They
Um,
United won a 7, 8, 9. Chelsea in 10. United in 11. Yeah.
yeah, and like what a team this was. Like you only have to name the players: Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo, Berbatov. Like, do you know what I mean? Berbatov is an amazing player in his own right. Tevez, as we all know, was
Yeah.
amazing as well. And then Rooney and Ronaldo were world class. Do you know what I mean? You've
Yeah.
Scholes, you'd probably put Scholes in the world class category. 2 world class centre halves in my eyes, Vidic and Ferdinand. So you've 5 or 6 players there that are above.
I
way
think
above the
no
average.
no disrespect to Wes
Honestly.
Brown. I think they're all world class. Sorry, Rob. Literally.
Yeah. I wouldn't say they're all like world class in the terms of like, you know, like Wes Brown.
Globally, yeah.
I think Kerrick's one of the most underrated players this country.
Carrick was an amazing player, great footballer. But you just see like that particular 11. Then you did have the great squad as well, I think. 'Cause
Brilliant.
the
Darren
Robbie
Fletcher,
squad,
Owen Hargreaves,
It's
the
Anderson, is it? Anderson.
Anderson,
Anderson,
Nani,
Manny.
Park Ji Sung. All these players who come in and
Park.
do brilliant
Yeah.
jobs.
As you said, Tom, they came up against an exceptionally a team that were just as good as them with Chelsea, and Chelsea were able to buy as well and keep adding like SEN and players like that.
Ballax and all came in. Brilliant. And
it came down to a slip, obviously, in the final to get them the Champions League. But you know yourself, the old saying, sometimes you make your own luck. And
of course, and I think that particular season in 2008. Chelsea were still massively there. You know what I mean? They were right there or thereabouts. I think we only won the league on the second last game of the season. So Chelsea ran us right close again. And then in that 2007 season as well, we got to the semi-final of the Champions League, and we're only knocked out by that unbelievable AC Milan team, who we actually beat in Old Trafford, and then I think Seedorf got a couple of goals, or Kaká scored in the San Siro.
Kaká were probably one of the best players, if not
He was the best in the world at that stage, yeah. So like you could argue they were on the verge of getting the 3 European Cup finals in a row, 7, 8, and 9. And I just think the 2008 season in particular, obviously they win the Champions League, so everyone talks about that season. Ronaldo wins the Ballon d'Or and he's 42 goals that season. But 2009, if we just look at like the worst they did in any competition was getting to the semi-final. And that was, I remember it very, very well. It was against Portsmouth, and fucking Michael Carrick couldn't get the ball over the line. And they ended up beating us 1-0, I think.
Chelsea were there again in 2009, and again a dodgy refereeing decision, and against one of the
they were screwed.
They were knocked out, so they could have been in the final against them again. So that just going to show the quality of Chelsea, pushing them again for the league.
And also, Rob, on that, Arsenal were in the semi-final against us in 2009 as well.
Yeah.
So the Premier League in that era, I think, was it from 2005 onwards? It was like a Premier League team in every Champions League final for like 8 or 9 years, maybe bar 1 year. But it was
finals. They'd always be there.
Always, it was a sensational time for the Premier League and for Man United to be the top
one of
team.
the strongest. To be fair, that's a good argument to make. So this team is definitely right up there. 100%.
Yeah, I think even in between, is it them years? Even in Europa League, with like Fulham and Middlesbrough were up there in finals. I think they were up there.
Yeah.
But it's like Robbie said, the word what he come out with was adapt, and you can just see what line up there. It's kind of like what Ferguson's done. It's like with Vidic coming in, you get in the strikers like Drogba's up there, big physical thing. You saw, I'll match it with Vidic, and then the likes of Tevez and Rooney and Ronaldo having that attacking top 4, as you say, to go against the Carvalho, Terry, Cole, and whoever was at right back at that time.
And then when it was needed, they could just play with Rooney and Ronaldo, and they could drop in the Nannies, the Parks, the Fletchers. He knew how to do it, and for me, but even the style of football they played, it was a throwback to that early 90s team with Kanchelskis and Giggs. They sat in against teams And when they just released,
Pace.
Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez, Park, Nani, they just went, and
Yeah.
it was
There's that goal
sensational
at the
to watch.
Emirates, isn't there? Is it
Yeah, that
Champions
was the
League?
semi-final.
Oh,
That was
stop.
against Arsenal, yeah.
One
And
into other
Ronaldo,
in about
Rooney, Park,
15
Yeah.
seconds.
brilliant. And then Ronaldo, those couple of seasons, was the best player in the world for me. I know
Yeah.
Messi won the Ballon d'Or in 2009, but I think over the course of the 2 seasons, Ronaldo was insane. But we were only look. I think United could have went on and dominated in the Champions League for another couple of years, only for we were met by arguably the greatest team of all time in Guardiola's Barcelona. Do you know that way?
Yeah.
I think if they hadn't have existed, United probably would have went on and won another 2 or 3. Well, not another 2 or 3, but they would have won 2 or 3 in that period. But again, for me, I think they're the greatest Premier League team of all time, that Manchester United team. But the stats of this next team, who won it all, could argue that these are the greatest Premier League team of all time, which we won't be doing another episode of the podcast if they are. I'll tell you that for a fact. The points totaled, lads, is the biggest takeaway for me, right? Yes, they've won the 4 competitions within these 3 seasons. Their first league in 30 years or close to 30 years. The points totals are absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
97 losing 1 game, 99 losing 3 games, and
Defeats,
92 you losing 2 games. Absolutely
Scary stuff,
sensational.
that.
And do you know what? The biggest compliment I paid him before I'll pass it on to you, bar that Man United team in the 2008, 2009, and these would be very close. I think this is the best team I've ever seen in the league to watch. The style of football they played, the high press, the just dominating you in games, never giving you a chance to breathe, destroying you 7-0, 8-0. It didn't matter. They never stopped at 1-0. They were disgusting. They were horrible, and they're just sensational. They were. But Robbie, I'll pass it off to you first because we spoke about obviously we're living in this now, still in Klopp's Liverpool, but they were just absolutely unbelievable, weren't they?
Yeah, like for me, them 3 seasons or whatever they are, 4 seasons where they're, and if them tables are flipped and they have 3 league titles, for me they're probably the best
Yeah,
team
yeah.
ever.
You can't argue.
Like the level of points, the games just lost, the goals. Like look at the goals.
Yeah.
Like
89, 85, and 94.
96. Oh, 94.
We could easily be having them in a different conversation here. I just think, obviously, and then they've won everything. They've won them all. Every cup, the FA League Cup,
Champions League in 19, Premier League in 20, and then FA Cup and League Cup double in 22.
3 Champions League finals in that time as well, and only won once. So they're kind of like the nearly men. They should have won a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they didn't run into the team that we're going to chat about at the end, which is madness and the manager. But yeah, Jesus, the way as you said, Tom, the way they play and things are all about legacy. Like he took them from nothing as well, obscurity. Like they were. Yeah. They had one flash in the pan season, and Gerrard kind of carried them, and then it all kind of rests on him. He slips, ironically enough, and
did he? Yeah. When was that?
But, and they had a great little team there. Stalen now burst on the scene, and
Sturridge had it. They did. Brendan Rodgers did build a half decent team there. In fairness,
good football as well. Good football they played.
I hadn't got a patch on this team.
No, they were in absolute tatters when Klopp took them over. If you look at their very first team, that they have,
terrible.
They have now, and I just think we haven't seen the end of his kind of thing. I don't think. I still think there's another 2 or 3 seasons in them, a league or 2.
No,
and that's not great for you to hear. But
look, taking the United side out of here, right?
Yeah. So different. If this table was different, I think you would have to say.
When you were talking there, actually, it reminded me of what I said a minute ago in terms of only for Pep's Barcelona, for Man United.
Yeah,
it's very similar. Only for Pepsi, Liverpool could have went on a period here. Probably that would have surpassed anything we would have seen in terms of. It would have been like Liverpool in the mid-80s when they just cleaned up everything. European Cup after European Cup, league after league. It's very, very unlucky, if that's the right word. They still won everything, but Marcus, they could have really went on, and we probably wouldn't even be having an argument, would we?
No, yeah. Again, like I say, can't really discredit anything Robbie said. I kind of go with that fact. I used to have, my opinion used to be, obviously you always get asked the question, don't you use the greatest manager of all time, Ferguson, Guardiola. I hold this man up there with them, believe it or not. And I know his trophies obviously probably don't, no one will surmount the trophies what these two men are going to win, Ferguson and Guardiola. I just think he's gone to teams like Dortmund. Bayern Munich were running all over the German league, and he kind of he made people love his Dortmund team by the way that they played.
Yeah.
And he took Bayern Munich, off their pitch for a couple of seasons. I think over there, a couple of German cups, couple of seasons, got onto the Champions League final. And then again, he won a couple of league titles, Champions League final, and then he came over here, and like Robbie said, the squad were in absolute fucking bits. Rodgers had left.
What year did he get the job, the Liverpool job? I actually want to look at their squad that he had.
Is it 17, 18? Could be.
Yeah, or 16, is it?
Yeah, it could even be the year before.
I don't
Anyway,
think.
I'll check it here while you lads are.
Yeah, so obviously, like you were saying, Robbie, he's gone from a back four of like Ali Sissoko over there, Saka over there. Do you know what I mean? And Agger were coming to an end, and Carragher had just gone when Rodgers were leaving. But then you look at the basis of what he's built now, with Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold and Van Dijk.
Jesus Christ! I actually have the 11 here in his first game: Mignolet, Nathaniel Klein, Martin Skirtle, Sacco, Alberto Moreno, Emre Can, Lucas, James Milner, Coutinho, Lallana, and Origi.
Wowzers!
That's that sort of team you'd find struggling 13, 14 Premier League, no problem.
To the Europa League final with that.
Did they lose to Sevilla or somebody like that?
Yeah, they beat Seville, I think, and that was kind of the start. So I always remember a game against Dortmund at Anfield as well. I think they came back and won 4-3 or something like that. Or 4-all, I think that game was it.
Yeah, they had a couple of them. They had the Barca game as well, didn't they? Obviously in the Champions League. But it's like you were saying, Robbie. It's the way he knew when he took over that team it was going to be a big job, and that's what I loved because he just thrived off it. And then to see it come to fruition, I know, like was just said there, when you look at them goal scorers and points totals of them 3 seasons, you could easily flip them. They're hanging on by a game.
What do you think?
There's a point in it in 2 seasons.
In the 2 that they lose, they're hanging on by a game.
And yet the season they won it by 18 points.
Yeah, and that season,
so it's just.
And I think it's important to note that what way he did it. Like I know they always bang on about the net spend and all. But the way in the last 18 months football has gone with the Saudis and all coming in, and mockery and everything, and money being thrown around. Look at the state of Chelsea. The way he's gone about it has been amazing. The way every football supporter dreams that their club actually really go on and win things or compete at the highest level.
It's like, look at what he spent on Mane and Salah compared to what some of these teams are spending on their strikers now.
The model, the sustained model, forget about the fact that he sold to buy players as well. The fact that the players he signed were all world-class players.
Yeah.
As in, he made them in his system world-class players. Like you say, Rob, the net spend, right? Great. Spurs have a net spend; they've won fuck all, right? The low net spend, right? Liverpool have a low net spend; they won everything. So it doesn't always guarantee success, but their recruitment and Klopp was a major part of that as well. With Michael Edwards signing the players they signed: Alisson, Van Dijk, Robertson, Salah, and Mane. Particularly those ones for me. Absolute world class, as good as anyone has ever signed players in the Premier League.
Probably.
For me,
I agree.
And I just the rock and roll football. The minute I heard that phrase, I said, "Oh shit!" You knew what was coming. He wanted to play that style of football.
Yeah.
No one thought that you could do that in this game anymore because everything became boring. It became tactical. It became system based. It was individuality was taken out of the game, and all of a sudden, then Salah does what he wants, Mane does what he wants. It was just insane. And Robertson and Alexander-Arnold were just turned into wingers.
You score 3, we'll score 4. It got like that.
But where would you ever have fullbacks having 14 and 15 assists each in the league and stuff? It's incredible. I really do. If I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be sick to my stomach to a degree that they didn't win more in that
3
period.
in a row.
And I disagree with Robbie because I do feel I don't feel like they're going to go on and dominate now. I could be proven wrong, and geez,
Mm.
if they are, fair play to them. But I just feel they don't have the same feel about them as they did when they got in the Salahs and the Manes. I don't know. I could be proven wrong, but that period for Liverpool was insane. And
They could have a league in them, I think.
I think they still have trophies, but I don't think they'll ever get as much. I don't think they'll be hitting these points totals regularly like they did
No,
over the course of these 4 seasons. The one season we left out was a really poor season for them. Can't remember where they finished.
Yeah, the year after they won it, they actually got fifth to do, I think, in the end.
Fourth,
yeah,
fifth.
they did.
Oh, they got fourth, I think. Allison scored that header, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they had
yeah.
a bit of a resurgence at the end of the season, didn't they? And managed to get back in there.
Yeah, they did, and it was again. It was they
They had a
did
lot
this,
of
they did a
injuries that year,
season
though.
on, did a season off. That was the year they got KO'd with injuries, and it was the same last year. But they obviously just about tried to have a go at United last season in top four, missed out.
Be
But
interesting this season.
it will be, and I do think if they get Caicedo, like I said at the start, I think he's a
They
much
got
better
that.
player than Lavia, and I think he
McAllister's a great
is.
signing.
Yeah, and Sabozloi remains to be seen whether he turns into the player that they think he will. A lot of Liverpool fans are very excited by him.
I think
Um,
Darwin will be different this season.
Yeah, he
Just
looks
got a
good.
little
he can
feeling.
score goals. And I think one of the most underrated
Yeah.
players is actually Diogo Jota. Scores every
Yeah,
time he plays.
quality.
He's just not fit.
And your
But
man
look,
Diaz, he's a great
Yeah,
player.
Diaz is back. That'll be like having a new signing as
Diaz,
well.
and then as well, Gakpo was excellent last season.
This is
Yeah.
what I'm
He
saying.
came in, played in the false nine, scored lots of goals,
They're
linked the
actually
play. Their front five are world class. The problem is potentially the defensive midfield position if they don't secure a top number 6. And
Yeah.
then I do fear that Van Dijk is on a downward spiral. I don't.
Mm.
The spiral's the wrong word. Sorry. I feel like he's peaked and he's over.
course.
He's coming
Yeah.
down now. He's on the way down. And they haven't necessarily gone out and spent big money on a centre back. Konate is good, but yeah,
I'm with
that'd be
Robbie
where
me
I
though.
fear.
I'm with Robbie. I think they one of them where they could go under the radar a little bit here. Like you say, if they do get Caicedo in, it's like you see all pundits now at the beginning of the season who's going to win league, and obviously you're getting your cities. Arsenal are going to be up there again. United are touted for have a good season again, and they're not really saying Liverpool are going to be up there. And I think Klopp will love that. He'll
I think
thrive off that.
I think a lot of people are just unsure about them because they've so many new parts. Do you know what I mean? In terms of their
Yeah.
two main midfielders now are new.
It's going to be huge, So
Yeah, and I agree massively. I do. But look, we'll move on. And look, I've only put up this image, right? For one reason, I couldn't get the kids to sleep on time, so there's no other
Plus it's
graphic,
City as well.
and it's City. Now, there's a couple of reasons here, right? I really could have put up 3 City teams. I could have put up the season they got 100 points, which no one else has done. I could have put up the domestic treble, which no one else has done, or this treble, which is they've equaled United, right? But if
Not
we
in my lifetime.
if we couple it together to a degree, right? I know you're talking about instead of one season like 99, you're taking it over 5 or 6 seasons, right? But what he's managed to do by breaking every financial rule, no, I'm joking. What he's managed to do is sensational, to be honest with you. Mancini won a league or two, Pellegrini won a league. Guardiola's been a different story, and he's done it. Let's flip the argument on its head. He's also done what they've done in an era where Klopp had that Liverpool team.
Yeah.
If you flip the argument, he won the 2 or 3 leagues, and obviously last season they've done the impossible dream, as they called it when United did it. They've won the treble. Take the financial argument out of it, right? I appreciate football. Footballers they don't, they just get on the pitch and they play. How they got them is a different argument, right? But I think it's very, very hard to see past City as being probably one of the greatest teams. I would probably put them on par with that Man United team, the 2008, 2009. And the only reason why I put United ahead is because I'm a United fan, if I'm being honest.
Does it hurt that?
No, because I do appreciate good football.
Would hurt more if it was Liverpool.
100%.
Just literally going to ask the
100%.
same question then.
It doesn't hurt as much for 2 reasons. I only know one City fan, and City are cheating bastards. So that's why. But look, let's get into it. Really, they've reinvented themselves even a couple of times under Guardiola. You know, with the team that he's taken and then the team that he has now. And then probably in another 2 years, he's going to do it again if he's still there. Because you have your Walkers, your Silvas, your Kevin De Bruyne is
Well, he's got the
31
money, hasn't
now
he?
as well. Yeah, and he'll do it again. But look, lads, are any of you going to call them the greatest team?
For me, Jesus, and I just said before we came on, United 99 or this Guardiola team are the best for me. So if we break it down, I would have to stick my neck out and say, it's not really sticking your neck out saying this City team are the greatest Premier League team ever produced. For me, Guardiola's the best manager ever in the history of football. That's probably a bit of a statement as well. But
well, look, it's 1 or 2, I think, isn't it? It's like it's him or Ferguson.
You see what? You see all that fucking wine or.
You'd have to throw Ancelotti into the hat as well, I suppose, for what the amount of trophies he's won and big trophies like Champions League.
Mourinho,
obviously, as well. But I think Guardiola is kind of, it still was in Mourinho's era and he's kind of surpassed Mourinho. Mourinho had a longevity of about 10 years and you can see he's not the same. Guardiola is the type of manager that seems that he could...
He's still at the top, isn't he now, Guardiola? Like he's still there where Mourinho now has dropped off.
And everyone has money now. Do you know what I mean? And you look at Chelsea last season and some top managers have gone in there and they failed. So it's not just about having the money. It's about getting the right mix.
Players. And managing them. And you're right, Robbie, 100%.
And look, obviously the money helps. He can go out and he can say, well, your man's not working. I'll just get the next best right back in the world. Do you know what I mean? But he didn't really do that either. He did to an extent, but not... and he made some of these players unbelievably excellent, like the likes of Grealish. We can actually see him.
He does bleed quite a few of the City youngsters into the team as well, to be fair to him.
Yeah, like Foden is a generational talent, so it's a no-brainer. You'd want
if you've got Cole Palmer, Rico Lewis.
Like Rico Lewis, this fella's got to be exceptional by the looks of things. You know? But it's a great team. It's obviously a cycle again. He's won 5 out of 6 titles. With this kind of core of players, De Bruyne, Silva, that kind of them kind of players, and bringing in Haaland obviously helps. Getting him fitting into the system, which no one thought they would. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially at the start of the season when there was a little bit of they tried to play direct and he was scoring, and then they said, okay, well let's try him dropping in and getting touches on the ball, and then the goals not necessarily dried up, but they were getting a couple of poor results, weren't they, City? And then they just went back to playing quite direct again, and obviously tore up.
To do it, as you said, in the Liverpool Klopp era,
100%.
To break every record going, amazing. To win the trophies you won, records with trophies like trebles and domestic trebles, and
like you've 100 points.
I think this season, I don't think they're in the conversation. Oddly enough, if they didn't do what they did this season. So that's how fine a line it is as well.
It is, yeah.
Like they're in the conversation, but I would actually nearly put Liverpool and that 99 United ahead of them, like, that way. And that's until last season. So it's...
But do you know what, Robbie? I think the reason why we would necessarily lean more towards those teams is because we know City have not necessarily bought everything, but it's just been manufactured, if that makes sense. There's no romantic element to it. There's no, it's all just money, get the best manager, get the best players, and then just win everything.
Yeah.
Where Klopp is a genius, and I'm not saying Guardiola isn't, but we know he had to sell his best players and then took a risk buying these players. It's not like, I'll put it this way, if Alisson and Van Dijk didn't work out, Klopp doesn't win all that he wins. He doesn't have the money to go and replace them again.
He's probably not there.
You know what I mean? Like, look at the amount of players that City have bought that didn't work out, that they moved on and brought someone else in without really having a dip. So that's where I think, to a degree, the likes of Klopp is even better than what he gets credit for, and Ferguson as well.
The monopoly team, just buying players so the other teams don't get them. Do you know that?
Yeah,
that has happened.
Calvin Phillips, one of the biggest ones, isn't it?
Example, and Leeds suffered for that. Like, you know what I mean? And that's again a conversation probably for another time. Do you know that way? But in terms of even the way they play, unbelievable. Just I think actually before last season, though, they kind of lost their way a little bit the way they played. They're a little bit boring, I thought, at times. That way they were one-dimensional. Last season, they came together, that way, and they were, they always involved in games or whatever. Well, although last season they tightened up as well in the Champions League. But yeah, for me, they it's hard to argue with trophies and them stats.
And their points totals are amazing. And they scored over 100 goals in one season, 100 points. That was their third league in a row. Only United did that twice as well in the Premier League. They're going to 4 in a row next year. They could be doing back-to-back European Cups. I think this could be the start of a period that we'll say they're the undoubted best.
Yeah,
or we say it's you have your Arsenal now, or whatever. It remains to be seen because it's present.
He's had many cycles in this as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, where he's had to rebuild the team in a way. So he's gone through the Company, Silva, Aguero, and then he's got Fernandinho, De Bruyne, Silva, and then he's gone through, and now he's on Rodri's come in, Grealish is forward. He's like I say, you can put many feathers in his
coming as well. Though I do think like De Bruyne is 33. You could see last year he was slowing down.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that a few minutes ago. I think the Walkers like that. Robbie Walker, Silva, De Bruyne. Mahrez is gone. Obviously, Gundogan's gone. They are coming to a period where not it'll be stick or twist necessarily, but you can see he's already started. Gvardiol coming in, Akanji. They're a little bit younger. Cole Palmer's going to stay, he said today, on that right-hand side. Foden's going to come through more this season, even though he's not young necessarily still. But, I agree with you. I think there's going to be a big shift in the next, 18 months for City, that they're going to move on a good few players and they're going to go big again in the transfer market with they're going to sign a massive midfielder to replace De Bruyne, which I thought it might have been Bellingham, to be honest with you. I thought they might have just went in and said, fuck it, we'll get him maybe a season before we need it. Do you know that way? But look, before we wrap up, we're just over the hour mark now. Before we wrap up, we're going to have to say definitively, each one of us, who is the greatest. I'm going to stick to me guns. I'm going to say United. That 2008-2009 season, back-to-back Champions League finals, 3 leagues in a row, 5 out of 6, or 4 out of 5, like Robbie said, and 5 and 7 as well. So we won in 2014. That period is, for me, the best. Second to that, I would have to say this City team, because of the amount that they've won. But as a personal love to watch, it was actually fucking Klopp's Liverpool, to be honest with you. That would be who I'd rather watch. But you've obviously kind of said City. We'll give you another minute to think, Marcus. But Robbie, obviously reiterating, you think City.
Yeah, City for me. Just on the basis that you can't really argue with the records. Do you know what I mean? As I said, it would have been different. Probably would have been Liverpool or that Man United 99. But again, and that would have been a tough decision to make if Liverpool had 2 extra titles. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, well, City for me anyway, and then just toss like that Liverpool.
Throw off then.
Man United 99, Man United 2008 as well, was exceptional as well, because the players that they had, that Chelsea team was amazing as well, what they were competing against. So not at all, but yeah, City is this City team, maybe because it's present as well, that you said.
True.
Yeah.
Right, Marcus, it's time for you to tip the scales, or else throw another name in the hat there.
Obviously, I'll throw another name in. We said off air, didn't we? I just believe maybe it might be the old art, but it's like the eras of football are a lot different now, which we all can agree on. And I think obviously it's like the Cities are now playing in this era where they can go and wallop a team 8-0, and they're supposed to be a Premier League team. Do you know what I mean? And that never used to happen back in the day. It didn't happen. And that's no detriment. Players are a lot fitter these days. They look after themselves. And obviously the game's changed, the way people play. People are more offensive, so there's more gaps at back. But for me, again, like I say, I would have had the Arsenal team as the Invincibles, but I can't believe I'm going to say it, but I actually do think the United team at 2008, 2009, to be in that era of football with like the Barcelona giants who were massive then, you've got Galacticos were still buying and paying for players. Chelsea had a top-class team. And I do think, for me, to watch them, the way they counter-attack football, as much as it pains me, obviously being a Wanderers fan, but you just got to look out and just see it as it is. And to win the trophies and to be so close in some of the seasons, and like you say, to have that season where the worst scenario for them were a runners-up medal or a semi-final, and it is frightening for me playing in that era of football. And then, like you say, seconds, it's a tip up between this City team and the Liverpool team for me the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, perfect. And I think we've all pretty much said the same 2 or 3 teams. The Invincibles obviously got a shout out. Gav won't be happy with that. He would have said the Invincibles because they're the only team not to be beaten, but they didn't back it up with anything else, Gav, unfortunately. But there you have it. We majority rules, Gainer. I'm sorry, this is my podcast, so the greatest Premier League team of
Sorry,
all time
Robbie.
is Manchester United, Rooney and Ronaldo team, shall we say. But this has been the Offside Trap. Until next time, thanks very much. Thanks, gents.
Cheers,
Cheers,
lads.
chaps.